And vulnerability includes, expressing a need, I need to take care of myself. I need time. I need to not do this, not to make this trip. And then what I further discovered, which really astounded me, is that vulnerability in the business world is actually a superpower. It's not a weakness at all.
Hi there, you are listening to A Founder's Life, and I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. My guests and myself share our entrepreneurial journey and our methods for a balanced life. And I'm joined here today by Andy Zimmerman. Andy, thank you for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Andy Zimmerman. I'm the CEO of a company called Journey. We're a private equity backed company that's been in existence for about 3.5 years. And in the course of that, we have acquired five consultancy agency firms that we brought together in the sort of creative immersive experiences space. And prior to that, I was CEO of Frog Design, the iconic digital design firm. And before that, Accenture. Before that, Idea Lab, which was more entrepreneurial incubation, and then before that, PwC. So some very big company experiences, and then some very, very startup, small company experiences.
Love that. I'm actually old enough to know Idea Lab. They actually looked at buying my first big tech company. They actually looked at buying back in 2000.
That's when I was there. I was there 2000 to 2002. Not the best timing in terms of the .com
That's funny.
crash,
I, I,
but
I wonder if we came across each other at the time, and
yeah,
not
I
not
don't
that I
know.
remember, but it was a while ago. But that's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
they looked. Yeah, we had a lot of discussions with them. Um, got
Well,
pretty
Bill
close.
Gross, the founders is not the bond, not the investment guy, but Bill Gross, the Idea Lab person. Really, I think is one of the most brilliant people I ever worked with, and he has been so successful, started up so many companies. I think a dozen or so have gone public. So working with him for a few years was a treat, and just seeing how his mind worked. Um, and so it was a great experience. Unfortunately, the timing wasn't great, obviously with the crash and so forth, but a learning experience.
And I think you're also an author, aren't you?
Yes. So I always thought that, in fact, I never thought I'd be in business. I thought I'd be like the next F. Scott Fitzgerald or something. And that was my actual academic training. And I actually won a fellowship after college to called a Watson Fellowship, and I actually traveled through Europe with circuses and and thought I was going to write a book about that experience. So I then ended up in business. However, about I started writing again, really about 15 years ago. My first novel came out about 5 years ago, and hopefully my second, the sequel to it, will come out early next year. Is what I'm targeting. It is an interesting situation where the novel that I've written is actually called Journey. So I think I may be one of the few people that can say I'm the CEO of a company called Journey, and I wrote a novel with the same name. So it's a little bit of a interesting, not coincidence, obviously, but something that I always warn people because they get confused between Journey the novel and Journey the company.
And the journey you're on.
And the journey I'm on. Yep.
I've got your book lined up in my Audible. I had planned to start listening to it before our call, but it was a nice idea, but I just haven't had a chance yet. But I will.
That's okay. Yeah, it's a quick read and it's meant to be entertaining, but it has a little bit of purpose in there as well. So
And some truth, I believe.
hopefully, certainly a truth I've found. Yeah.
And tell me about family, what family means to you.
Well, I'm actually remarried a couple years ago, kind of having gone through a bit of a COVID romance, I would call it, in that seeing someone on the West Coast, I was living in New York. How would this ever work? And then with COVID, when COVID happened, at that time I was running Frog Design. And in a matter of a couple of weeks, we closed down all 14 studios around the world, and I could really live wherever I wanted. So Big Sur for me is a place that has a lot of energy. And I thought I've always wanted to live there. So now I can rent a cottage. And that way I could see this lady that I was dating all the time. And one thing led to another. We moved in together and we got married a couple years ago. So We have two sons, 12 and 17. I have the opportunity to sort of raise a family again. My son from my previous marriage is about 31 now, uh, and it's been great. It's been um, I don't know, it's a blessing, to sort of have that opportunity again. We got married in Church of England. My wife is English. Actually, we got married in a church where Shakespeare was baptized and where he and his family is buried. So it has a little bit of that writer energy in it. And the vicar interviewed us because if you're divorced in Church of England, you can't necessarily be married there. And he was asking questions about my life, her life. And he said, I think that you both are experiencing a redemption and a chance to restart and start life over again. And it was quite beautiful way of thinking about it. So I get a lot out of the family. Um, we both have fairly busy jobs and travel a lot, so we have to do a lot of like arbitraging, like who's going to be home this week or type of thing. But it's been great.
It's interesting what you said about Church of England. I didn't realize that. I thought Church of England was started because King Henry VIII couldn't get married, or maybe actually he couldn't get divorced as a Catholic. So
Isn't that I had the same, like, isn't it ironic that we're going through this process when the whole point of the Church of England was to get around the divorce issue? So yes, I found it a bit ironic, but um, it is what it is, and we passed, and it was a
lovely.
beautiful ceremony.
You're probably not going to a local Church of England church though, in Northern
N-
California.
No, we go there when we visit my wife's parents who still live in Stratford, um, and I would say personally, I'm not a religious person, but I am quite spiritual, and I actually find I get a lot out of experiencing some of the the tapestry of religion. So I enjoy that particular church. Actually, has deep meaning to me. I enjoy going to places like Assisi in Italy with St. Francis, which I find, is a wonderful energy for me. So I kind of glide around formal religion, but certainly, believe in in spirituality as being part of our journey.
I think I'd be on a similar page, coming from a slightly different place because I'm Jewish, but I definitely much more as I've got older, more spiritual than religious.
Hmm. Yeah.
And talking about what health means for you, so whether that be mental health, physical health, nutrition, sort of what does health mean? How does it look? How do you stay healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. This is where maybe I'm miscast on this podcast because I can't claim I have a particularly good lifestyle. My excuse is the travel, and the fact that there's no pattern to my life, therefore no particularly healthy lifestyle. Um, I was flying back from London back to San Francisco a few weeks ago, and I was in a particularly sort of mood of my God, another trip, another trip. And I just out of curiosity looked up on my all the airline websites, well, the five large U.S. ones plus British Airways, and I actually have done 6 million miles just on those six airlines. That doesn't include Air India or the Emirates, whatever. And it's in my book Journey. I mean, the main character is a high tech executive who's on a plane all the time. In fact, the cover is looking out a window of a plane. Um, what I try to do is one, having gone through a spiritual awakening with a uh, soul reader, that sort of opened me up from a mental health point of view. I went through a lot of change in my life because of it, and I think I rebalanced work and play. I think I rebalanced the masculine and feminine energy in me. And what I do try to do is meditate, and I also try to go to places where I can be rejuvenated. So I go to a spa in Palm Springs called We Care, which is both a detox, sort of does all kinds of things in terms of liquid diet, colonics, all kinds of different massages and so on. But it also is a place where you can meditate. It has a labyrinth. I've had three major life decisions I made in that labyrinth, including the decision to leave Frog and to start up Journey. Um, and then I go to Sedona, which also I think has a lot of energy, vortex energy, and there's a spa there that I go to, which once again is very healthy. And then I go to Glastonbury, England, which is a spiritual center, and there's lots of places there to meditate and to kind of uh, get more in touch with yourself. So I think that I've made a lot of progress on the mental health side of things. I don't think I ever had a mental health problem. I just was ignoring, myself and depleting myself. And so that's been a major change over the last 15 years. And then on the health side, on the physical health side, I do find that particularly the detox spa I go to, it's like a gigantic reset. You spend a week there, you lose weight, of course, but also just what you realize is how your brain can function when it's actually, your body's detoxed, and all of a sudden you're just on fire, and then I leave, and then I fight the fight, and as the months go by, fall into bad habits, and then I go back and hit the reset button. So it's not ideal, but I've stayed, knock on wood, quite healthy. Uh, so far.
I've had some spiritual experiences in Sedona as well, so I get that. So I guess we'll have to talk a little more maybe after the podcast about helping you
Yep.
on that health journey. But it sounds like you've definitely got the mental health and spiritual health uh, on the right direction.
Yeah.
Um, and talk to us a bit more about what you talked about, some of your work journey that led up to sort of journey. Talk to us a little more about what Journey really does right now, and what you do for companies, and how you help them.
Sure. We're a creative consultancy agency, um, kind of specializing in sort of design of space experiences, immersive experiences, and live performance experiences. So it's a collection of studios that have been, merged together, and has talent like architects, gamers, makers, storytellers, lighting people, audio people. And by bringing them together, the idea is that we can create the next generation multi-dimensional experience. Examples of the kinds of things we've done that people might have heard of. We did the interior design of the Sphere, which opened in Vegas a couple years ago. Quite an experience. Anyone who hasn't been, I highly recommend it. We that Fast Company named that we won the Experience Design of the Year award for that. We reimagined and redesigned the Empire State Building observation deck experience. This was done during COVID. Um, at the time before COVID, had a reputation for waiting in line for a long time, and then getting cloudy when you get to the top of the building, type of thing. Afterwards, with the experience we've created, you start having these incredibly sort of immersive, interesting experiences on the second floor of the building. And in some ways, the actual view is almost anticlimactic. And a way of measuring that is TripAdvisor does best tourist attraction poll every summer. And before did the reimagination, the Empire State Building did not make the top 25 attractions in the world. And now it's ranked number one. And this is like the same building, the same view, um, its experience. So we also do live shows. We just were nominated for a Tony Award for the special effects in Stranger Things, the play, which opened on Broadway a few weeks ago. We do operas. We do lighting activations. Um, so we did the Kingdom Saudi Arabia Pavilion for Kyoto World Expo, which won the Gold Award for Best Pavilion, has 500,000 visitors in the first 30 days. So it's very, exciting. We do restaurants, high-end restaurants, but we also do hospitals. So we reimagine the outpatient experience for chemotherapy patients at Sloan Kettering. Um, did a family sort of building and experience for St. Jude's, for example. So while probably we're better known for the sort of entertainment, hospitality sort of side of what we do, we also do bank branches. hospitals and airports.
That's cool. It's good to be able to provide those experiences everywhere people go.
Yeah. And
I
why
haven't,
should,
I,
yeah, why should a hospital experience be, what we said is let's turn this clinical experience, take it from visiting a clinic to visiting a sanctuary. And how would that feel? And so we actually, I mean, no one enjoys going somewhere for, a chemotherapy visit. But while there, you can learn French, you can play games, you can meditate. There's a number of things you do. You don't wait in a waiting room looking at a dozen other people waiting to get the treatment. And so it really had a profound effect, and it's won awards and become kind of the standard for that sort of thing. So we our feeling is, don't, just because it's healthcare and cancer, you know, there's ways to make the experience more human and more empathetic, and that's sort of our philosophy.
that's great. Let me ask a question. What do you like to do for fun?
Well, I mean, other than enjoying my family, and I used to play a lot more golf, but I just haven't had the time lately. I hope to take it up again, more seriously. And then the writing. I mean, that for me, writing is both a fun thing to do, but and a therapeutic thing. You know, um, it just gives you an outlet for getting back in touch with yourself, which I find is the real struggle in life, because I think when you're a busy executive with a lot of stress and a lot of constituencies you're trying to please, whether it's clients, employees, investors. The one thing you tend to do is, if you're going to give, is you give up on yourself, and you deplete yourself. And I learned from I kind of felt like Superman, and I felt I had inexhaustible, you know, energy to give. And that's how I was successful for the first part of my career. But I fortunately, thanks to, in a synchronistic way, running into a soul reader that started working with me, I discovered, in fact, I did not have infinite energy, and I was very close to depleting, what I had, and that I had to sort of re-engage with myself, and have some empathy and caring for myself, and that sort of, I'm not saying I was going off a cliff, but I definitely think I would have had a less healthy and probably even less successful life if I hadn't had, that blessing of having that realization and what it feels like to be in touch with yourself and having care for yourself. So you can do both, is what I'm finding. I don't have to, it's not like sacrifice yourself or sacrifice um, everybody else. They feed on each other, actually.
It's something not many people get to experience, that
No.
understanding.
I mean, one of the things I learned in my awakening uh, was, instead of having this sort of knight in armor with the sword and the shield, which was kind of the visualization of myself, I think, looking back on it, that one could be vulnerable. And vulnerability includes, expressing a need, that I need to take care of myself. I need time. I need to not do this, not to make this trip. And then what I further discovered, which really astounded me, is that vulnerability in the business world is actually a superpower. It's not a weakness at all. And I mean, I really kind of was vulnerable once my novel came out, because while it's not a memoir, clearly the main character has, you know, some semblance to my life. Um, and it was a little scary to me because I'm a serious business person. I mean, a lot of people depending on you and expecting you to be like normal, And but what I found was, in fact, the fact that I was willing to be that vulnerable was actually a superpower with people. What I also found is a lot of business people, particularly men, surprisingly kind of came out of the closet a little bit, if you know what I mean. All of a sudden he said, Andy, I actually meditate, or I'm actually thinking about doing that. And they kind of like bashfully are sort of telling you that. So you begin to understand, oh, there's a lot of everyone's human, and maybe by being a little bit vulnerable, you bring that feeling out in other people. And what I didn't run into is people going, "Oh my God, Zimmerman's a nut job," and you know, we better we better do something. He doesn't. He's lost it. Didn't really happen.
Great to see you can help other people through your experiences. And can you stop working? Are you good at turning off?
And that's hard for me. Um, um, that's a little bit why I do these sort of retreats, because part of that is truly turning off. But I have to be completely honest. I'm not, um, that is a struggle for me. And my rationalization is the travel, and I'm always in this sort of, like, I don't know, either a turnaround situation, or in this case a build. And you're acquiring 5 companies in 3.5 years, and obviously you're going to be working very long hours and so forth. But if I go away and I kind of, for a week, then I'm not saying I come back and I completely change my behavior, but I become much more aware of needing to balance things a bit. So I just need to sort of every 3 month, like, get hit over the head.
Okay,
And
well, you found what works for you.
yeah.
And I think the next question is going to be a softball for you. It's going to be an easy one based on what you've been saying. But what has been a pivotal moment in your life?
Well, I mean, I think I would have to say it was this soul reading in Glastonbury, which took place. It was an hour. It was an hour, and changed my life. So, I wrote a book about it. I'm writing a second book that kind of follows that. In the reading, I was told I was going to write a book about the experience, and I have. And so, that's sort of, I think, the that's sort of the beauty of synchronicity, and just that, you know, trusting the universe is not hostile, particularly, turn in a direction so the wind's, at your back, and just be open, and shut down, the monkey mind, the intellectual, double entry accounting part of your your brain, and just amazing things happen. So that was the biggest change in my life by far.
Sounds it. And how does a balanced life look for you?
I would say, well, I mean, personally for me, I think everybody has their own sort of profile and life experience. In my case, it would balance is not traveling the way I do. I think it's just, I don't think there's anything wrong with traveling, but I think that, particularly travel where you're going through, 5 time zones, 7 time zones, and so forth. I think it just, it can't be healthy for you. Sometimes in my backpack, I put a banana, and you go on the plane and you forget about it. And then when I get to the hotel, I'm rooting through, and I see this banana, and you look at it and it's brown. It's like, destroyed basically. It's been on a plane for 10 hours, and you realize this air and this pressure and everything, this is also, doing something similar to your own body. So that would be a rebalance for me. I think I could improve my diet. I'm not particularly disciplined. And then I just think, reconnecting with nature more often than I do. That's an important thing. I do some of it, but I don't do enough of it. Um, um, but on the other hand, yeah, I keep telling myself in another couple years, you know,
Does tomorrow ever come?
yeah, until there are no more years. But you know, um, but I mean, it's a struggle. I mean, I do marvel at people who do seem to have these incredible jobs, incredible accomplishments, and yet don't seem to, that somehow to have found a balance. I mean, I think it's kind of a remarkable. I was just watching Warren. I happened to just almost accidentally see Warren Buffett speak at his last, when he announced that he was stepping down. 94 years old. I think he's cracked the code. You know, we're living in the same house in Omaha for, I don't know, 70 years. And I look at someone like him, I just admire him, not only obviously financially and what he's accomplished, but also just personally how he's lived his life. I think is quite remarkable, and certainly something I think we can learn from.
Definitely. Hopefully we can all stay as with it until we get to 94.
Yes.
What's one piece of advice you could give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
um, well, an aspiring entrepreneur, I think it's really important to understand, at least in my experience, that whatever you think it is not what it will be. So, obviously you have to have a thesis and you have to have something to plan around. Um, but just don't be surprised by the fact that that's not going to be what you actually create. And that's where it's maybe turning off a little bit the logical side of the brain, the intellectual side of the brain, and lighting up more of the listening and the feeling, the energy part of the brain. Because I think that there you'll get signals you aren't going to necessarily see in an intellectual way. I mean, I wrote an investor deck for Journey, 4 years ago or so. And, if I pulled it out today, it is not what Journey is today. Does it have elements of what Journey is today? Yes. What actually was the kernel of what Journey is today in the investment deck? Yes, it was. But the degree of emphasis and the exclusion of some things and inclusion of things I wasn't thinking about, that's sort of, and it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it makes it really, if everything was so linear and logical, I mean, then it'd be pretty boring. But I do think that people who haven't been through the cycle of innovation and building a company sometimes just get really stuck on the original idea and don't hear, you know, don't listen, because I think the universe that does want to help you and give you some hints and some cues, if you really listen. Um, uh, and I think after going through a couple of these, which I'm sure you certainly have in your career, it now then you start enjoying it, because I mean you just laugh at yourself like, oh God, I thought I was you know I thought I was going to build a social networking company, and I'm doing Tony Award winning plays. I mean, what the hell, where'd that come from? It's not mine wasn't quite as severe a pivot, but definitely um fascinating to me, that journey.
You've definitely got to know how to pivot, how to duck and dive. It's rarely a straight line. I wouldn't say never, but it's rarely a straight line for an entrepreneur. You're right. I
Well,
think
there's
your
a
journey
Stanford
showed that.
professor whose name I don't remember, who I happened to have a dinner with, just with a bunch of people, about a year ago, and it came up that I'm running this company called Journey, wrote a novel called Journey, and so forth. And she said, I did a piece of research about a year ago with another professor, and what we were testing is problem solving, thinking about a problem solved as a journey versus a destination. And they actually did this focus group. They did this test where they trained people on a sort of thinking of it as a journey methodology, and then thinking of it as a destination. And then a third of the people they didn't train at all. And then they gave them a problem and they measured the performance. And it turns out people who think of problem solving as a journey have 4x the performance of people that think of problem solving as a destination. And the people not trained, of course, were in the middle. And I think that's very profound. I mean, that's just sort of what I was saying about the business plan. Like, don't think you've got the destination, because it's a journey. And actually, by focusing on it as a destination, you're actually going to, underperform. Now, you can't get, completely woohoo, like, oh, who cares? I mean, whatever happens tomorrow. But I just think psychologically, and almost from a visualization point of view, thinking of it as a journey, probably going uphill as opposed to downhill, climbing to the top of something, is a very, very good visual, versus like there's something out there that I need to walk to. And once I get there, you know, I'm at my destination. Um,
And have fun along the way.
Have fun along the way because it's all about the journey. It's not about the destination. Um, we all know what the destination is.
So true.
Yeah, but um, I don't know how I got off on that, but yeah, it's that the word journey actually is quite useful. I don't know. When we meet with a client, a new potential client, and we do sort of start explaining what journey does and so forth. Invariably, before you know it, half an hour into the conversation, every 15th word is journey. And then I'll go, stop. I said we can't use that word anymore. But it does, it just works in a lot of different ways. So it is one of the reasons I named the company Journey. But
So thank you. How can people find you?
well, my email is andrew.zimmerman at journey.world. Um, LinkedIn, I'm pretty good about responding to LinkedIn as well. Um, and and journey.world is the URL for Journey's website. And then if I can plug, not that I already haven't, and you've been helpful, but my book is on Amazon and Audible and all that good stuff. So it's a fun read, and but that's the different ways in which you can reach me.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Leo. This was enjoyable. Thank you very much.
And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and please do leave a review.